Hi everyone, welcome to True Crime News. We begin with a gruesome caught-on-camera attack that left a teenager dead and others injured. The horror unfolded on what was supposed to be a fun day of tubing along the Apple River in Wisconsin. It started as a fun summer day floating along the Apple River in Wisconsin, close to the Minnesota border.
Somebody slumped on the river, bro. How you slump? How the hell you slump on the river?
But the day filled with friends, drinks, and sunshine would quickly turn tragic.
What is he on?
When a man approaches a group of young people floating on inner tubes.
Hey, bro! Get away! Get away, bro! Oh, God!
Leading to a violent confrontation. And a deadly turn.
Is this real? Oh my God! Oh my God! What the?
All I can say, it was self-defense. There were lots of people that came on to me.
Leaving 5 people stabbed and 1 teenager dead.
I looked and I saw Isaac's hair laying on the riverbank. I knew it was him.
17-year-old Isaac Schuman, an honor roll student from Stillwater, Minnesota, had planned a day of golf with a friend.
He loved to golf. I lived him on the golf course and he golfed almost every day.
But Alina Hernandez says her son's plans changed when a group of friends asked him to head over to the Apple River.
I was out on the deck having coffee with my sister-in-law and he came out and said, some of the guys are going tubing on the river and I think I'm going to do that until we can go golfing.
The Apple River in Wisconsin is a popular spot to beat the heat during the summer months.
It appeared to be one of those typical kind of fun summer days. A bunch of kids out on the lake, they've got their inner tubes.
Legal analyst Josh Ritter says cell phone video captured the moment that changed everything.
And unfortunately that day, everything really turned tragic.
Nic Miu, a local engineer, was on the river with his wife and friends celebrating a birthday when he says his friend lost his cell phone.
I said, well, let's go look for it. So I put my snorkel on and I looked and these guys found something. And they were talking about it.
You can see Nick rush toward this group as they were floating down the river.
I went over and I said, did you guys find the phone?
He drops his snorkel and goggles in the water, and you can see him apparently searching for them in the water.
What are you talking about?
As the group and Nick start shouting at each other, a group of young women came over and started telling Nick to walk away. But when Nick doesn't leave, things quickly escalate.
Doesn't matter. He said he was looking for little girls.
The young men start to shout and laugh at Nick and falsely accuse him of looking for little girls and taunt him, calling him a pedophile.
They were firing him with insults. They were aggressive with him. Their position was that Mr. Miu simply wouldn't go away.
As the crowd continues to shout and hurl insults and some telling him to leave, Nick stays put as more people who are on the river come over to see what's going on.
What the hell is this guy's problem, bro?
With cameras rolling and the taunts getting louder, nobody in the crowd appears to notice that Nick grabbed a knife from his shorts and is holding it in his right hand close to his body. The camera turns away from Nick, but you can see him falling into the water as someone hits him in the head.
He's being attacked. Many of the onlookers and the people who were involved in that confrontation seemed surprised to even realize that he had a knife in his hands. And by the time they even realize it, he's already been stabbing people.
Several people are stabbed, and some are bleeding in the water.
Oh my God. Is this real? Is this real? Oh my God.
This, again, is not someone who's just trying to use that knife to ward others off. He's intending to do harm.
A.J. Martin's stomach is sliced open. A young woman is stabbed on her side, and friends notice Isaac Schuman badly injured in the water.
Well done, Isaac!
Meanwhile, as friends try to get Isaac and AJ to safety, Nick heads back to his group and they continue to float down the river. People in the panicked crowd begin to call 911.
Hi, I'm at Apple River. We're on the river, and a guy just stabbed 3 people. A man's intestines are falling out of his body. Hi, we're in the river right now. We got people bleeding out.
Alina Hernandez gets a call from Isaac's friend while she's having lunch about 10 minutes from the Apple River.
But Owen called screaming that Isaac had been stabbed.
The worried mom rushes to the scene where ambulances have arrived to help the injured.
And I saw Isaac's hair laying on the riverbank. I knew it was him. And they were trying to perform CPR on him.
Did you go to Isaac?
Yeah, I ran to Isaac.
Was it clear he was already deceased?
Yes.
Chaos on the river after a bloody confrontation leaves everyone trying to understand the severity of it all.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
But as emergency services are called, Nic Miu left the scene, rejoining his group, and started floating back down the river.
Just take a picture and save it.
You can hear the ambulance and police sirens in the background as the group continues to float along like nothing has happened. As sheriff's deputies urgently search for Nic Miu.
He realized that things got tremendously out of hand. Blood is filling the water. He flees from the scene.
Nic is spotted and detained downriver.
What's your name?
Nic.
Nic what?
Nic Miu.
He's placed in a patrol car, and a few minutes later, he starts telling his version of events.
Here, somebody got stabbed, and I fit the description.
Yes, you do.
All right.
Yep, so we're working through that now. Did you see that fight on the river?
I heard about it.
You heard about it?
Yeah, and I seen people gather around it.
Okay, all right.
And I went over to talk to see if somebody saw anything, but that's about it.
He pretends to have nothing to do with the stabbing that killed 17-year-old Isaac Schuman. A.J. Martin was fighting for his life after being stabbed in the stomach. Several others were also stabbed and needing urgent care. Miu is taken into custody.
He hit me, and they were on top of me, and I don't remember anything after that. I just remember I ran away. I ran away to my group.
And initially he says he's not involved at all. His story changes a couple of times as he's being interrogated.
All I can say, it was self-defense. Self-defense. There were lots of people that came on to me.
But in the cell phone video, the only person who had a knife was Nic Miu in his right hand, held by his waist.
The cell phone video was the centerpiece of the prosecution's entire case.
The more Nic speaks in his interrogation, the more lies he tells about the confrontation.
He was so close, and one had it in his hand, so I took his hand and I bent it and I poked him with his own hand. And then I took it from his hand, and then I went and swung like this. So I don't know who I hit. I just know that I took the knife.
But with so much cell phone video available, his story doesn't hold water, and his lies muddy his claims of self-defense. Nic Miu is charged with the homicide of Isaac Schuman and endangering the safety of those he injured.
Where it turned to the criminal and where law enforcement and prosecutors got involved was when he produced that knife, causing the death of one person, severe injury to others.
Do you have a scar?
Yeah, quite a big one. It stops right there.
During his trial, those who were injured by Miu took the stand against him. Alexander Vang testifying about trying to help his friend Isaac Schuman while in the water.
I decided I needed to hold pressure onto the wound and drag him to the shore.
On the stand, Nic Miu said that he was afraid for his safety and was acting in self-defense, but admitted to lying about the knife during his interrogation.
I lied about the knife.
Was that your knife?
Yes, it is. It was.
Why did you take out your knife at that point?
I was beginning to be afraid. I was surrounded. They were yelling. They had just pushed me.
With the families of the victims in the courtroom, including the parents of Isaac Schuman, the honor roll student who loved golf and was unable to fulfill his aspirations of studying engineering at the University of Wisconsin, the judge announced their verdict.
The jury finds Nic Miu guilty of first-degree reckless homicide.
Guilty on all counts, the judge sentencing Nic Miu to 20 years in prison.
At the end of the day, when jurors see that kind of violence and that loss of life, and even the survivors are scarred for the rest of their lives, it's very hard for them to allow someone like that to walk out of the courthouse a free person.
Welcome back. We turn now to the dark end of the story of an aspiring model who disappeared years ago and was presumed dead. The case haunted Colorado Springs detectives until a surprising source helped solve the case. On a website called Model Mayhem, 19-year-old Cara Nichols described herself as a sexy new blonde in town. And Joel Hollendorfer couldn't resist. Unfortunately for Cara, it would be a fatal encounter.
He strangled a woman to death.
Now True Crime News revealing horrifying details in a murder that took a decade to solve, but finally put a killer behind bars.
He drove her lifeless body to his mother's ranch, wrapped her in numerous bags and duct tape, threw her on top of a dead horse, and threw lime all over her to cover up a crime. That's premeditation, and that is evil.
On that October night, Cara told her family that she was heading to a fashion shoot in Denver.
It's my understanding at the beginning of the investigation that Cara was going to the Denver metro area for a photo shoot, but none of the information led to that being truthful.
The truth? Cara was actually working as an escort. Cara's mom, Julie, says like many teens, Cara had rebellious years in high school, but was trying to turn her life around far from her family home in Chicago.
The last conversation I had with her, I remember trying to encourage her, if not beg her, to come back to us. I just remember wanting so badly to get her back. I think modeling for Cara was a mask, was a way to step into a different identity.
Whether Cara was actually headed to a modeling job was unknown, but her family could have never guessed that evening would lead to devastating heartbreak.
Her friends alerted us that she was not picking up her phone, she was not answering text messages or messages on Facebook or social media, and that's when we became very worried.
Cara's older brother filed a missing persons report at the local sheriff's department, where he felt dismissed from day one.
He was told to just sit tight, that she was an adult, and they didn't want to be needlessly alarmed.
Frustrated, the Nichols family sought help from Michelle Bart of the Women's Coalition Against Violence and Exploitation, a group that shares information on hundreds of missing persons cases.
The family wanted answers. They deserved answers. Their daughter deserved to be looked for. And we took it national.
Cara's parents flew to Colorado Springs to join the search. In Cara's bedroom, they find clues. Her professional makeup case was still there, along with her laptop, a phone charger, and nearly $300. Cara's cell phone records from that night eventually led police to a man named Joel Hollendorfer. He tells police that he and Cara texted but never hooked up that night. Her cell phone data says otherwise, putting her very close to where he lived on his parents' farm. But when investigators search the property using cadaver dogs, they find nothing. With no solid leads, Cara's case quickly grew ice cold.
Imagine being a parent and knowing that their child has disappeared and doesn't know what happened to them, or they've been murdered and don't know what happened to them. That's a loss that you can't fill. So we continue on, we won't stop.
Then, nearly a decade later, and by sheer chance, Hollendorfer is picked up on an unrelated warrant. When police ask him about Cara, he still denies any involvement. But this time, detectives track down his ex-wife, Christina, and she drops a bombshell. telling them Joel once confessed he accidentally strangled an escort while they were having sex in his car and buried her body in a horse grave on his parents' property, all while married to Christina. An FBI evidence response team again searches the farm, this time focused on a specific spot. And there, 3 feet down, they find a black plastic bag. Inside, a human hand and human remains. It's Cara.
They'll never get over this.
Hollendorfer was charged with second-degree murder, but at his trial, the family grew furious, saying that Cara's character was on trial more than her killer's.
The whole entire 2-week trial was all about how she was on a site or how she dressed or the drug use.
A jury saw through that, but only convicted Hollendorfer of the lesser charge of manslaughter. For Cara's parents, it was yet another wound to their scarred hearts. Now, the family vows to make sure this killer serves every minute of his 24-year sentence. And they've called upon police to dig up the rest of his parents' property.
I think if other evidence is discovered about his way of life, that's how he'll be able to never see daylight. That's a monster. That is a sociopath. That is evil.